Uh, Book I wrote took several years. My brother Bruce helped me on this. He was the editor. And yeah, still on the first slide. And things I learned, one of the things I learned uh, is basically what wins above replacement meant and what JAWS meant. And I did a lot of ranking of the players based on what their career JAWS score was. And wins above replacement were good to see for season to season type of figures. And basically, it talks about how many wins a player contributes to his team and how much better he is than a replacement player. Okay, slide. Hmm. Can you go back one? Uh, the second slide should have inspiration for the book. Go to the next one. Okay. Okay, well, there's a second slide. Let me just go through that quickly. The agenda, introduction to who I am, inspiration for the book, what I learned from this experience, brief introduction to the structure, content, and format of the books, show a sample chapter from the book Ed Holicki's 1975 no-hitter, and then we'll have a Q&A and where to buy the books. And I also got a list of Oklahomans, pitchers and catchers who pitched or caught a no-hitter, and Oklahomans who made the Hall of Fame. Okay, so background information, go up. Hmm. Okay, I'll just, okay, background information. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, went to high school with Steve Jobs, although we were not friends. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for college, and I spent 30 years in the Air Force from 1984 to 2014. My inspiration to write the book was questions I had about no-hitters. I looked at an article that Jim Murray, Hall of Fame writer and Pulitzer Prize winning author, uh, about no-hit games on July 1st, 1990. And basically, there have been a lot of no-hitters in June of 1990 that were kind of sketchy, but at the time they counted as no-hitters. And Murray was kind of having a bad day, I guess. And basically, we're saying stuff like anybody can throw a no-hitter. To an extent, that's true. But he also said that no-hitters are like all thrown by non-entities. And I wouldn't say that at all. I did a thing where I ranked these pitchers by levels 1 to 5. And 1 is like a Hall of Famer, 2 is very good, 3 is good, and 4 and 5 are kind of journeymen. I didn't want to say bad or flunk or anything like that. They're journeymen. And so level 1, 2, and 3 pitchers are like 5% of all the pitchers that have pitched in baseball history. But 60% of no hitters are thrown by 1, 2, and 3 levels. So yeah, usually it's above average pitcher that does that. And the ones that don't have a good career usually had got arm injuries. Are no hitters due to luck or skill? Answer: both. I mean, there Grover Cleveland Alexander, Gary Maddox, and Roger Clemens all won over 350 games, yet none of them threw a no hitter. And yet there's a guy named Bobo Holloman who had a career record of 3-7. He threw a no hitter on his first start. So sometimes this happens. And I gave you kind of a level of, let me give a more descriptive level for level 1 to 5. Uh, level one, the average pitcher had a level one was Bob Gibson was close to that, 251 and 174. Level two, Virgil Trucks was 179 and 137. He pitched for Detroit in the 40s and 50s. And yeah, that the average pitcher had a one-loss record of that, 179 and 137. Then three, the average pitcher was 130 and 115. And that was the one-loss record for Dean Chance, who won the Cy Young in 1964. And level four was about 89 and 86. And that's what John Montefusco's record was. And level five was 43 and 46. And I also got into David versus Goliath games where you had a journeyman on a mediocre team throwing no-hitters against a vastly superior team. And there were 5 games where the journeyman's team and the journeyman threw a no-hitter against a vastly superior team, 40 games better. So the superior team, that was 40 games better, got no hit. Next slide.
Okay. I just had a quick question. Do you have an example of a David versus Goliath game?
Randy Johnson no-hitting the Atlanta Braves in May of 2004. Randy Johnson was 40 years old at the time. He wasn't a level 5. He was still a level 1, but the Diamondbacks that year had a record of 51 and 111, and the Braves were 96 and 66. So the Braves were 45 games better.
Okay. Wasn't that also his perfect game?
Yeah, that was his perfect game too. Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
No problem. And can you scroll down a little? Can you go up a little? Can you go up a little? Okay, David and Goliath. Okay, got that. Then discovered how important journeyman pitchers and catchers are to Major League Baseball. Well, I found out things that 75% of all starting pitchers in Major League history are level 5s, which mean they had less than 10 WAR points for their entire career. And some of them are guys who faced one batter, an inning, 10 innings. You're not going to get a real high WAR score with, the cup of coffee like that. God, it's like it's skipping a page every other page. Let's see. No, I guess go down. Yeah, okay, there, individual no-hitters. Okay. That tell the story of the game, the teams and the players involved. There were 20 interviews with no-hit pitchers and catchers. It was 23 games, but a lot of people I couldn't reach or they're deceased. There were 141 tables focused on topics associated with each chapter. So 23 games, 141 tables, so about 6 per game. A lot of times we went through all 30 teams and had their best pitch games as determined by game score. And for a game score, that's something that Bill James created. Whereas if you don't allow any hits, you don't allow any runs, and you have the same amount of walks as strikeouts, you have a game score of 87. So there's been about 15 or 16 game scores over 100 and over 100. So it's very hard to get a score of 100. It takes a differential of 13 between walks and strikeouts. So like 15 strikeouts, 2 walks, something like that. Sandy Koufax had a game like that. Let's see.
Would Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game against the Astros be one of those? I know his game score was pretty high up in that one.
He has the highest game score for anybody who's pitched a 9-inning complete game.
Okay.
It was 105, I think. He struck out 17 or 18 and allowed one hit. So that's the highest game score. It beat all the no hitters, 9 inning no hitters. Let's see. So each of the tables, usually for the 6 tables, a lot of times they had the team's best pitch games, best pitchers from each decade. And being a Giants fan, I like seeing that Juan Marichal had was labeled best pitcher or pitcher with the highest WAR score for the 1960s. And Bob Gibson was 1 point behind him. And Sandy Koufax wasn't up there because he only pitched 7 years out of the 10 years. And best pitchers from each country and many more unique subjects. Okay, next slide. Volume 1, many more unique subjects. Okay, Volume 1, the best no-hitters ever pitched. My brother and I came up with this list. Which game was the greatest no-hitter ever pitched? And okay. In Volume 1, in the beginning of Volume 1, we talked about the greatest no-hitter ever pitched. And here's some of the pitchers. Okay, can you go up a little bit? I'm trying to get Max Scherzer in there. Yeah, Max Scherzer, 2015 versus the Mets. And he's got the highest game score for any pitcher who's thrown a 9 inning no-hitter, 104. And yeah, like it was the last game of the season. I think he struck out 17, but he didn't walk anybody. But 3 guys got on, or a couple guys got on base, or one guy got on base. It was either on an error or a hit pitch doesn't count against the pitcher. Or if a guy gets on base on an error, it doesn't count against the pitcher. So anyway, and the Mets were a good team. They had a good record that year, and they were trying to do better to get advantage in their playoffs and everything. Then 1996, Hideo Nomo. And we included that game because that was thrown in Coors Field. And there was no no-hitters thrown before that in Coors Field. And there hasn't been any since then. And that year, 1996, the Colorado basically had a home field batting average of 343, which is like incredible. But he was still able to throw a no-hitter. Their team was loaded with good hitters. Now, next one, Randy Johnson. Yeah, included this one, 2004 against the Braves, and he was 40 years old. His team was terrible, 51 and 111, and he had it going that night and was able to shut him out, be able to perfect game him out. And the no-hitter classification was removed in 1991. So it didn't matter at that point. But the no-hitter classification was something that Fay Vincent came up with, and he had a committee called the Committee for Statistical Accuracy. In September 1991, they decreed, put in a writing, that a no-hitter has to be, for an individual no-hitter, it has to be one pitcher, has to be a complete game, and has to be at least 9 innings. And then 1965, the Sandy Koufax versus the Cubs. The Cubs weren't a good team that year, but they still had 3 Hall of Fame batters. Billy Williams, Ernie Banks, and Ron Santo. He's still perfect game. Okay, next slide. Okay, then Volume 2, which no-hitter was the most unlike no-hitter ever pitched? You don't see it here, but okay. The lower left-hand corner. Mike Warren, 1983 versus the White Sox. The White Sox had a record of 99 and 63. The A's were 74 and 88. So the White Sox are 25 games better. The White Sox were still playing to get the best record in the American League that year, so they'd have an advantage for the League Championship Series. But Baltimore beat them in the League Championship Series anyway. But they weren't putting in the B team for this game. And Mike Warren wound up with a career record of 9 wins and 13 losses. But he's another guy that had arm injuries, so that's why he had a short career. And then Ernie Koob and Bob Groom, upper right-hand corner, 1917 versus the White Sox. No hitters on consecutive days, not consecutive games, but on consecutive days. Ernie Koob threw a no-hitter. Then the next day, second game of a doubleheader, Bob Groom threw a no-hitter. And the St. Louis Browns were in last place that year, and the White Sox were in first place. The White Sox were like 41 games better than St. Louis. And then 1916, Joe Bush. Bush actually, I included this one. Bush was a level 2 pitcher. He was good. He won like 195 games. But the team he was playing for, Philadelphia A's, 4 years earlier, they'd been world champions. But this year they were 38 and 115, which is like the worst record in the 20th century for an individual season. Then Don Black, 1947 versus the Philadelphia A's. Don Black I include because out of all the pitchers that have thrown no-hitters, perfect games, etc., he had the lowest JAWS score for a career, negative 1.9. So, I mean, that's got to be for something. And let's see, Jose Jimenez, 1999 versus the Diamondbacks, June of 1999. And he not only threw a no-hitter, he beat Randy Johnson in that game. And then Jimenez threw another no-hitter 1 month later against the Diamondbacks again and against Randy Johnson again. So Jose had 2 complete games in his career, 2 shutouts, and 1 no-hitter. He wound up being a relief pitcher for Colorado and had over 100 saves in that, but he was not a good starting pitcher. Okay, next slide. Okay, these are the players I interviewed. Jim Maloney, he pitched a 10-inning no-hitter. There's only 3 times that's happened. John Edwards was his catcher, and John Edwards was one of the smartest guys I talked to in that. He wound up not going into baseball after his playing career ended. He wound up going to a company that he'd worked in the offseason as an engineer, and he wound up becoming the plant manager. Juan Nieves, he was a young guy, 2021, when he threw his no-hitter against Baltimore in 1987. Bill Schroeder was his catcher, and Bill Schroeder has been a long time broadcaster for the Milwaukee Brewers. And Dave Stieb, God, could you bring it down a little? Okay, Dave Stieb, I see him lower left-hand corner. Then Pat Borders, lower left-hand corner, the upper right-hand corner. Pat Borders is one of 5 players who's been on a World Series championship team and an Olympic gold medal team in 2000 in Australia. Then Dave Stieb, he had lost 3 no-hitters in the 9th inning with 2 outs, but this time he was able to do it against Cleveland in September of 1990. Let's see. And then Randy Johnson, as mentioned before, 40-year-old no-hitter back in 2004. Robbie Hammock was his catcher. And Robbie Hammock was one of the few guys that I said, was this the highlight of your career? Who said, yes, it was. Easiest game I ever caught, 27 batters up, 27 batters down. Didn't have to worry about anybody stealing a base because nobody got on base. Ed Halicki, a no-hitter that I saw with my brother and a friend back in August of 75. And the interview he gave was great. He had several funny stories. Enjoyed talking to him. Andy Hawkins, he was an individual pitching for the Yankees in 1990 in the summer. And he was a visiting pitcher. They were pitching at Chicago. They're playing at Chicago. Through 7 innings, it was 0-0. He not allowed any hits. Bottom of the 8th, the bases were loaded from walks and errors. 2 were out. One of the White Sox hitters hit a ball to left field fly ball. I don't think the left fielder had sunglasses on, and he wound up dropping it and 3 runs scored. Then the next batter knocked in another run, so that made it 4-0 from 2 errors, and 4-0. And the Yankees couldn't get any runs in the top of the ninth, so the game was 4-0, and it counted as a no-hitter at that time. But then a year later, it didn't count. And Andy was still a little bit ticked when I was talking to him about that. That should have been grandfathered in, and I don't know. I might feel the same way. Next is Bud Smith. He was another guy who was like 20, 21 years old, pitched for St. Louis against the San Diego Padres in San Diego. Dallas Braden, perfect game against against Tampa Bay in May of 2010. That was a good story that basically his grandmother was at the game. It was Mother's Day, and his mother had died when he was like a teenager. So it was real nice. Glad that happened. Buck Rogers, enjoyed talking to him. He caught Bo Belinsky's no-hitter in May of 1962. The California Angels against the Baltimore Orioles. And Buck said about the game was, I asked him a couple of questions, and he said, Bo Belinsky had a mediocre fastball, but that day he had an extraordinary fastball. Wherever I put the glove down, he hit it. And just a great pitch game. And I said, were you ever concerned that he was going to lose the no-hitter? And he said, I was concerned up until the point the last batter for Baltimore popped up to first base. Then after after Buck Rogers, Don Werner caught Tom Seaver's no-hitter in Cincinnati. And I talked to several diehard Reds fans who could swear that Johnny Bench caught Tom Seaver's no-hitter, but no, it was Don Werner. Mike Heath, he caught Mike Warden's no-hitter in Oakland in '83. Terry Steinbach caught a no-hitter for Minnesota in September of 1999. And that was a game where the B team played because the manager of the California Angels rested a bunch of his starters because they had been eliminated from playoff contention 2 days earlier. So they played in, the couple of regular starters pitch hit later in the game, but yeah, but it's still, the pitcher did a hell of a job. He struck out 15, a couple walks, so I think he had darn near 100 scored himself. Then Eli Whiteside, catcher for the Giants, 2009 no-hitter against the San Diego Padres. And the great thing about this story was that the pitcher was Jonathan Sanchez. His dad was at the game, the first game that he'd ever seen him pitch as a professional. And Eli Whiteside and Eli Whiteside was a last-minute replacement because their catcher's wife was having a baby, so he missed the game. And Randy Johnson was going to be the starter, and he was replaced at the last second by Jonathan Sanchez. So 2 replacements combined for a no-hitter. Let's see. And then Miguel Montero, he was a catcher for the Cubs in 2016 when they won the World Series. And Koyi Hill, this was a game, Miami against Detroit, last game of the season. And I think Koyi Hill, was catcher. I think it was, I can't remember the pitcher. Koyi Hill, I think was in the on-deck circle. And Miami had got a guy on base, and then he stole second, went to third on a bad throw. There were 2 outs, runner on third. The other pitcher threw a no-hitter. So it's been the only no-hitter that was decided by the only walk-off no-hitter decided by a wild pitch. Okay. Oh, and one thing about Catchers, I mean, I enjoyed talking to the pitchers. With catchers, it was funny. I asked them, how did you become a catcher? A lot of the guys said, I was trying out for the little league team, and they say, go to position you want to play. A lot of people went to pitcher, first base, shortstop. Nobody went to catcher, so they went that. And that's how they got into catching. Another guy, his dad was the coach, and nobody wanted to play catcher. So his dad bribed him like $50 or something to play catcher. And other guys were like playing second or third base in little league and in college and in the minors. And then the guys from the front office came down and saw him and said, if you want to get to the big leagues, you got to play catcher. So he became catcher and then wind up getting into the big leagues as a catcher. Next slide.
Wanted to jump in real quick and
Sure.
the Miguel Montero, I remember that one. That was Jake Arrieta, that
Mhm.
2016 season when he was just absolutely unhittable. Um,
Yeah.
and Andy Hawkins, like you might know this since you wrote the book. Like I think he's one of three pitchers who threw a quote unquote no hitter and ended up taking the loss.
Yeah. There's like three or four pitchers. Yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
there was a guy for the Cubs back in the day, and there was someone more recent.
There was a guy in 1992 for Boston who pitched, and this was after what the official ruling of a no hitter was, which came in 1991. But in 1992, there was a pitcher who did that and lost 2-1. I guess it was against Cleveland. Boston against Cleveland.
Hmm. I should remember that one, but I don't. And Coy Hill, I think he's discussed a little bit later. He's got Oklahoma ties, so I think we revisit him here in a second.
Yes, you will. You will. And then, okay, next slide. Ed Hulicky's no hitter, August 24th, 1975. Slide. Where's the Mets? Okay. There was we had quotations from teammates, manager, and opponents. And part of what was going on, the Giants were in a bad spell from 1972 to 1981. There were 3 seasons in those 10 years where they had a winning record. I mean, this season they were 80 and 81. They just missed having a winning record. But in 1981, with a strike year, they had a record of 56 and 55. And in 1973, the year after Willie Mays left, they were like 87 and 75. But yeah, they got rid of a lot of fan favorites, and most years they were having a losing record. So the fan favorites they got rid of. In May 1972, they traded Mays to the Mets. In October of 73, they traded Willie McCovey to San Diego. In October of 74, they traded Bobby Bonds to the Yankees and got Bobby Mercer. And then in December of 1974, they got rid of Tito Fuentes and traded him to the Padres. So the guys who were really favorites and stuff, they got rid of, and they had a losing record. So, I mean, in 1975, the average attendance for a Giants game was 5,000. But that day, a doubleheader, they had 20,000. Let's see. Yeah, the fan environments, the Giants they were on the Giants station, KSFO, they were all talking about that, bringing it up every day that they might be going to Toronto. And the San Francisco Chronicle newspaper, the same thing. There was a story every day about the possibility of the Giants moving to Toronto. So that is a demotivating thing to going to a game. And let's see. Oh, and I thought I'd include fan environment almost leaving for Toronto. Carl Walenda, the famous tightrope walker. I mean, he died 3 years later, falling off one. But in this day, he had a tightrope from the third base foul pole to the first base foul pole, and he basically walked it. The Giants had AstroTurf at that time, and he couldn't nail in any posts to keep it steady and the line taut. But they had several big guys holding the thing back. There was a guy behind me going, man, there's no way I'd trust a bunch of guys holding that as opposed to having the rod pounded in. But he didn't fall. It was good. People were entertained. And then, so for the tables, we had Giant seasons records from 72 to 81, like I mentioned. The best games for 1900 to 2021. The older one, Carl Hubble had a game score of 134. He pitched 16 innings. And I think it was a shutout, but it was a 0-0 tie. And then they called the game because of darkness. And then I had an interview with Ed Halicki, was one of the best in the book. I'll bring that up at the end of this. And tallest players in Major League Baseball history, I thought brought that in there for fun. Halicki was 6'7", and out of 20,000 some odd players, there's only been 55 guys taller than him. And the guy he had the best time with during the game was Dave Kingman, who was like 6'6", and Halicki struck him out twice and got him on a pop out once. And best pitchers in Dominican Republic, Marichal was either first or second, and Pedro Martinez was either first or second. I forget which one. And a story from Ed Halicki about when he was pitching in the minor leagues. Halicki was pitching for the Phoenix Giants. First inning, they were behind 4-0. Bridges comes out to the mound and says, "Heck of an orange moon, isn't it?" So they were looking towards the scoreboard. And Halicki said, "Okay," looked, saw the orange moon. "Okay, yeah." Turned around. Bridges was about 20 feet towards the dugout. And basically, Halicki says to Bridges, "Hey, Skip, what was it you wanted to tell me?" And Bridges says, "Oh, yeah, let's just get this SOB out." So people had a laugh. People relaxed. It's basically Phoenix wound up winning the game 22-8. Next slide.
All right, yeah, and I just wanted to throw because you were talking about the Giants trading away fan favorites, and the Marichal thing came up.
Mhm.
Wasn't Marichal traded to the Red Sox around that time frame, 74?
Yeah, I was trying to think of all the guys that they got rid of. But I mean, he did not have a good year in 73, so I think they probably got rid of him after that season or 74. I know he wasn't pitching for him in 75. Okay.
Okay, and these
Next
next
slide.
couple of slides aren't showing up for some reason.
Okay, oh man. Okay, then none of the slides are going to show up. Okay, so let me just describe it to you.
Okay.
Oklahomans who pitched no hitters. There was a guy named Jesse Barnes in 1922. He was born in Perkins, Oklahoma, and his career one loss was 152 and 50. And Rube Foster, born in Lehigh, Oklahoma, his career record is 58 and 33. And then Allie Reynolds, he was born in Bethany, Oklahoma. His career record, pitching for the Yankees a lot, 182 and 107, 330 ERA. And he was born in Capitol Hill. He went to Capitol Hill High School in Oklahoma City, and he had two career no-hitters. They both happened in 1951. Okay. Well, the slide I sent you was in PDF. I don't know if you did PDF.
All right, let me try something. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Okay, how's that working?
Yeah, now I've got pictures.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
Thanks. Okay, so this is the next slide with Carl Hubble at the top. Carl Hubble was born in Missouri, but he went to high school in Oklahoma. And he was a Hall of Famer, inducted in 1947, and he went to Meeker High School in Meeker, Oklahoma. And let's see, inducted in 1947. Next individual in the middle there, Les Moss. He had a career record of 247 batting average, 63 home runs. And Bobo Holloman, the guy who had a career record of 3 wins and 7 losses, and this was his first start through the no-hitter that Les Moss caught. Very interesting factoid. And then John Bateman, the guy in the lower right-hand corner, was born in Fort Sill. He hit 81 home runs in his career. He caught 2 no-hitters. The second no-hitter he caught was that Bill Stoneman threw for the Montreal Expos in April of 1969, when the Expos had only been around for 9 games. And post-career, he did several things, but one of them was he was a fast-pitch softball player for a couple of years. Next slide.
Do you know offhand who the first no-hitter he caught was? I knew about
Well,
Stone.
this was a no-hitter. The first no-hitter he caught was 1963. I think it was Don Notabart. He was with the Astros at the time. And then Oklahomans who caught no-hitters, and also Johnny Bench, and that was in 1969. Maloney was the pitcher, and this was against the Astros. Dave Rader, who was the catcher for Ed Halicki's no-hit game, was born in Claremore. Career average 257 with 30 home runs. He was a Sporting News Rookie of the Year in 1972. And post-career, he wound up getting into real estate. In fact, a lot of guys who retired from baseball as players and didn't go into baseball as a coach or manager wound up doing real estate. Either have a crew building stuff for them, or real estate sales. And then Darrell Porter, he was not born in Oklahoma, but he went to Southeast High School in Oklahoma City. And he career 247 batting average, 188 home runs, and he caught 2 no-hitters himself. His no-hitter in 1977, I think he was caught by Bert. The pitcher was Bert Blyleven. Okay. Then more no-hit catchers. John Russell, born in Oklahoma City, 34 home runs. Coy Hill, he was born in Tulsa. He went to college at Wichita State, and he lives around Wichita now. He was one of the guys that I said, okay, who do you think helped you the most to get into the big leagues? And he said his coach from Wichita State. I think he's still coaching there. But he was the only guy that mentioned his college coach. And then JT Realmuto, if I didn't butcher the pronunciation, he was born in Del City. He's got 2 no-hitters, and he's 180 home runs so far, and he's still active. Next slide.
I wanted to follow up in here. The John Russell one, I'm almost 100% certain that was Nolan Ryan.
6/11/1990, yeah, against the Oakland A's. Yes.
That was his 6th no-hitter, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Real Muto's one of his that I know. I don't know. I'm not sure about the other one. But it was the last game of the season when he was with the Marlins, and it was Henderson Alvarez pitching.
Okay.
You want to talk about unlikely no-hitters? I think that's got to be one too. At least
was that 2013 or last game of the season?
Yeah, I think so. It was.
Do you remember if the game
29th.
was decided by a wild pitch?
Yeah.
Okay, the Realmuto is the one that caught that one that I mentioned before, the 2013
Okay.
game. And Coy Hill, okay, let's just keep going. Oklahomans who are in the Hall of Fame, Johnny Bench, of course, 389 career home runs. Next one is Willie Stargell, and I did not know he was born in Oklahoma. I included him. I mean, his family moved to California, and he wound up graduating from Oakland High School. Yeah. Let's see. And he was inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1988. And then Bobby Cox, longtime manager for the Atlanta Braves. He was born in Tulsa. And he managed the Braves to 5 pennants and 1 World Series championship. Okay, next slide. The Mick, born in Spavinaw, Oklahoma, inducted to the Hall of Fame in 1974, 536 home runs. And then Paul and Lloyd Wayner, 2 other guys I didn't know were born in Oklahoma. They were both born in Harrow, Oklahoma. Paul Wayner, born in or inducted in the Hall of Fame in 1952. Lloyd inducted in 1967. Paul had over 3,000 hits. Lloyd had 2,459. They're called Big Poison and Little Poison. I don't know if that was like a New York slang on big person and little person. I've heard that. I don't know. It makes a good story. Okay, next slide. And I included a couple guys from the Negro Leagues. Willie Wells, born in Shawnee, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1997, and career batting average of .330. And Bullet Rogan, born in Oklahoma City, inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1998. He had a career pitching record of 120 and 52, and he had a managerial record of 257 and 111. So basically 70% of his games as a manager. Next slide. Okay, and information on where you can get the books. There's a lot of stuff to write there. You can keep it up if you want, because the next slide after that is questions. If you want to write this down, or if you're close enough, you can take a picture of it. Or you can just go to Amazon.com, and at the top where they say search, you can type in the title of the book, From Randy Johnson to Dallas Braden. I think if you just type that in, it'll come up with my name on it too. And then you can check that out and buy the book. It's the paperback copy is $20. Like I say, I don't know if they have hard copies anymore. The electronic copy is $5.99. And books are also available from local bookstores, Barnes and Noble, or Independence, etc. You can keep it up there for a couple more minutes, but we could start. The next slide just says questions. So any questions?
Yeah, I had one. I'm going to jump in here real quick. You already talked about Harvey Haddix, which is one of the more interesting games in baseball history, in my opinion, and
Yes.
how it was sort of declassified as a no-hitter. Um, so I want to know then, my question is, I guess, sort of multiple parts, because I think of Harvey Haddix, Pedro Martinez, when he was at the Expos, had a perfect game in the 10th inning for the Padres. I think Bip Roberts broke that one up.
With a double, yeah.
And then more recently during the COVID season, we started doing those 7 inning double headers, and I think Madison
Madison
Bumgarner.
Bumgarner, yeah.
Yeah. So like there's part of me that's like, oh come on, let him have it. Like let him claim that as a no hitter. It's kind of cool regardless. I want to know what your personal thoughts on should those 3 games be considered no hitters.
Um, the only one I think of is Madison Bumgarner because it was scheduled for 7 innings. You can't force the other team to come up for the 8th and 9th inning. But the other ones, if they allow a hit after that, no. And if they have a second pitcher in there and it continues, the game winds up a no-hitter, then it's a combined no-hitter, not an individual no-hitter. But that's fine. There's been about 20 combined no-hitters. The funniest one I thought was Babe Ruth in 1917. He walked the first batter in the game, and he got pissed off at the umpire and took a swing at him, missed the umpire, hit Casey Stengel in the face. And I know. And then he got thrown out of the game, and Ernie Shore came in and got everybody else out, and the guy on first base got thrown out stealing. For a long time, they gave Ernie Shore a perfect game credit on that, but it can't be a perfect game since somebody got on base. But they could call it a combined no-hitter.
And then the combined no hitter sort of reminds me that's something that we're seeing more of as pitchers just aren't going 9 innings.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I remember when I was a kid growing up in Braves country, there was one, I think it was Kent Mercker in like 91. It was Mercker and then Alejandro Pena, I think, came in to finish it, and there might have been someone in the middle. Um, so I think you had said something to the effect of that you wouldn't consider combined no hitters to count because who would you attribute it to, I suppose, in that instance?
Well, they just call it a combined no-hitter. But, it isn't considered for one pitcher. It's just the way it is. I don't know. But yeah, they are using more than one pitcher. Hell, they did it in the World Series. They just have done it a lot more. Like out of the 20 combined no hitters, I think 15 has happened from 1900 to the present. Like virtually in the 70s, there were two or three. I mean, like the Oakland A's did it one game because it was the last game of the season. They didn't want anybody going 9 innings. So Vida Blue pitched 5, and then they had 4 other relievers to finish up the game. But yeah, with a 100 pitch limit, it's hard for these guys to get a 9 inning no hitter now. Oh, and you mentioned that these guys, and for Jonathan Sanchez's no hitter against the Padres in 2009, he that was the only complete game he pitched in his career, and he had 139 starts. Another pitcher, Mike Fiers, pitched no hitter for Houston. He pitched no hitter for the A's. He had about 300 career starts, and he had 2 complete games and 2 shutouts, and those happened for his 2 no hitters. Man, it's like virtually nobody throws a complete game anymore.
Well, we had, was it Yamamoto in the World Series?
Mm-hmm.
Which that was refreshing. A well-deserved World Series MVP for him, even if the wrong team won, but that's neither here nor there.
I agree with your opinion of the Dodgers. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'll open it up to the floor because I had one more question, but I might hold it. If anybody else has anything they want to throw in, questions, comments, go ahead.
You can ask your question if you want. I don't, it's fine with me.
The Bo Belinsky one is one that I find interesting. That's a guy who spent more time in the tabloids than he did in the sporting news.
Right.
Mostly a forgettable career baseball wise, but he did have that one no hitter.
Yeah.
And then as just a baseball nerd who has all the perfect game guys memorized, all 24 of them.
Mm-hmm.
To your point about is it luck or skill? Yeah, I mean, you look at guys who've thrown a perfect game. I'll just limit it to that. You've got Randy Johnson, Addie Joss, Cy Young, Catfish Hunter, Jim Bunning, but you've also got Dallas Braden and Philip Humber and Domingo Herman.
Yeah. Yes.
Ed Halicki.
Yeah, so it's you gotta be good for 9 innings, but it's one of the beautiful things about baseball is you don't have to be good for too terribly long to be remembered.
Oh yeah, and it basically, like I mentioned about Grover Cleveland Alexander never having a no hitter, but he won 373 games. And yeah, you mentioned Dallas Braden and Philip Humber. Yeah, Philip, but it's interesting because Philip Humber was an All-American for Rice University in Houston, and then like 2 years into his career, he wound up having Tommy John surgery. And he pitched several more years, got up to the big leagues, pitched his perfect game, and then just collapsed after that. So he has the lowest jaw score of any guy who's thrown a perfect game, and Dallas Braden is the second lowest. And
Leave that.
Don Larson was probably in there also. I think his career jaws was like 14. He was like a level 4 pitcher. Oh, about Bo Belinsky. I think they did polls in the early 1960s where they asked kids who do they want to be when they grew up. And a lot of the kids said John Glenn, astronaut. But I think they asked the joke is that they asked the kid's father who they wanted to be. And they said Bo Belinsky.
Because he dated Ginger,
Oh yeah,
Gina
yeah,
Louise,
yep,
among others.
yep. Oh yeah, another interesting factoid. Belinsky's the pitcher that faced him that day was Steve Barber, who's one of 2 pitchers who lost a no-hit game, although he didn't pitch the whole game. Detroit versus Baltimore, he was pitching for Baltimore and he walked 10 guys and was taken out with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Stu Miller came in and a guy hit a ball to the shortstop and he fumbled it. And a couple runs came in. He wound up losing the game. But Steve Barber was a friend of Steve Dalkowski. The guy who never made it to the big leagues was the fastest pitcher of all time, rumored, you know. And there was somebody else. Oh, and Belinsky. Those three guys were teammates in one of the minor league teams.
There was one other one I wanted to go back to just a little bit, and that's Dave Steve, who I think doesn't get he kind of gets a bum rap. I mean, he was every bit the pitcher as Jack Morris was in the 80s. And if you followed his career, I sort of did a deep dive into it a couple months ago, how close he was, how painfully close he was to no-hitters, to Cy Young awards, to things of that nature.
Oh yeah,
And then when he finally got it, I think his teammates were more excited for him than he was.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, he's 176 and 129. That's a good one-loss percentage. I swear to God, if he had gotten a couple of those no-hitters and had 3 no-hitters and won 200 games, he might have gotten into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's one of my like I sort of fixate on the Hall of Fame more than most adults should. And yeah, Dave Steve is one of those that's like, all right, you put Jack Morris in, come on. I mean,
Oh yeah, Jack Morrison, his career Jaws was like 37. I think Catfish Hunters was 38. They were like a level 3 pitcher. If you could just go by that. But Catfish Hunter played for a New York team, won the Cy Young, won 20 games 4 times. He had certain hurdles he cleared, and people know who he was. And yeah, he got in. But yeah, Jack Morrison's career ERA was like 370 or 380.
yeah, and I think maybe if John Smoltz wins Game 7 of the 91 World Series, it kind of might turn out differently for Jack, but
Yeah,
he was big on the big stage, and that's you can't take that away from him.
yeah.
All
Any
right.
other questions?
Yeah, if no one has any other questions, I'll open it up one last time. Um,
So in 2026, who throws the first no hitter?
I
Is
don't
it
know. Nobody got
nobody, or
it
is
this
it
year.
an esteemed pitcher like Shohei or Yamamoto?
I don't know. It could be anything they say.
It's
It could be a
impossible to
level
predict.
5. It could be a level 1.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's one of the things I like about baseball. I put this in my book too. I looked at all this stuff for like I considered what in NFL is the equivalent of a no-hit game, and it looked like pitch or quarterbacks who threw 5 touchdowns in a game. That's happened like 140 times. And I had baseball guys. There was something it happened, no hitters 130, but they didn't have an all-star game until 1933. So all no-hit pitchers who pitched anyway. And basketball, there were 150 different players who scored 50 points in a game. So like the 50-point national, the basketball guys, it's like 75% of them wound up in the Hall of Fame or at least one all-star game. And football, it was a higher percentage than baseball also. But that's because your best pitcher only pitches every 5 games. The human arm is limited until they start having artificial intelligence throwing pitches. Guy can only throw like every 4 or 5 games.
I have a question. You count how many what catchers caught the most games? I think 3 is it, but I don't know who they were. Jim
There's a
Hickey.
Jason
couple that have done
Varitek.
4. Yeah,
But-
Varitek from Boston. Let's see.
And I want to say Veritek had 4 or maybe even 5.
He had 4.
4.
Definitely had 4.
And I think Ruiz for the Phillies, Carlos Ruiz, I think he's got a couple.
Yeah, let me God dang. fact, I had a table of catchers who have caught the most no-hitters. Okay, page 232. That's in the second volume.
Yeah, I just remember when I was at the Baseball Hall of Fame a couple of years ago, and they had one of the little exhibits was it had like the most whatevers, kind of odd things, and they had one of Jason Varitek. They had some of his equipment.
And
So
you
that
said
one kind of,
Carlos Ruiz, right?
yeah, Carlos Ruiz
Yeah,
for the Phillies.
yep. Those two guys, and there's like 15 or 16 guys who caught 3. And one guy asked me this in one of my presentations. There's like 29 pitchers who have thrown 2 no-hitters. Which pitcher had the lowest career jaw score? And that was Bill Stoneman. But Stoneman had a hell of a fastball. He led the league in strikeouts one year with 251. But his one-loss record was like 28-51. He was pitching for an expansion team, and I think he may have gotten an arm injury too, but I don't know if I counted that or not. But I saw that with level 5 pitchers, of the 40 guys who had retired, 40 guys that are retired, 62.5%, 25 out of 40 had short careers because they had arm injuries or like a groin injury, and they tried to come back too early and wreck their arm. So that's what happened with a lot of guys who wind up being 5s.
I think the only other thing I wanted to throw in, because I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Johnny Vandermeer. We're going to talk about no hitters. I remember there was something I was watching a while back, and Pete Rose was being interviewed, and they asked him about his hit record, 4,256, and they were like, is that the most unbreakable record? Is anyone going to break that? And he said, maybe. The only unbreakable record is Johnny Vandermeer, because in order to break it, you got to throw 3.
Yeah. Yep. If you've got YouTube and stuff, they have a thing from What's My Line in the 50s, either that or I've Got a Secret. And people couldn't guess who he was, but they brought Johnny Vandermeer out. This was like a thing where they had baseball guys that day. They had Ty Cobb too, and they didn't. I think one of the guys recognized Cobb, but this was 1950s.
All right. Well, if no one has anything else, I will go ahead and stop sharing. Kevin, thank you so much for hopping on. This was
Oh,
really good information here. And I will be sure
thanks
to
for your
be,
help.
yeah, oh
Thanks
yeah,
for
no
your help.
problem. I'll be sure to be picking up the book shortly. Um,
Do you
so
do you know a guy who has a baseball podcast? Or do you know a guy who knows a guy who has a baseball podcast?
not personally, no.
Okay.
I
I'm
used to
trying to get
listen
on
to it.
those, but I'm glad to be doing this. I'm glad to, any crowd is a good crowd.
Yeah, I might do some digging and shoot you an email later. There might be one guy I can send your way, but that would be it. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That guy might know people too. If he's got a baseball podcast, he may know other guys who have baseball podcasts.
Right, that may be your jumping off point.
Sure, sure.
But yeah, I will we'll go ahead and call it. Thank you all for hopping on. Um, my email inbox is always open. Facebook page is always open. Our next meeting will be SABR Day 2026 in February. If you've got
Okay.
any suggestions, any ideas out there, guys, anything that you want us to talk about, I am always open. The last thing I want to do is listen to myself talk for an hour straight. So feel free to just shoot me an email anytime. Until then, I hope y'all have a rest of a good year for 2025, and
You too.
hopefully baseball season will be back before we know it.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. Catch y'all later.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks.
guys.
Thanks.